Unfortunately, due to operator error, and I'm the guilty operator, the video camera was not turned on until over halfway through Gerry's talk. So here are text pages for the first part of the talk. And sadly, they do not have the narration or elaboration that was offered. You may want to pause on each page to read and study it. After the last page, there is video of the last 18 minutes of the talk, plus a 20-minute spirited discussion.
It then knows what's going on in the world right now. That's all it can perceive, what's out there right now. And then it goes and figures out, what should I do? And it has a set of rules that tells it what it should do, and it actuates it, does it. So that's incredibly simple. All it can do is see the world as it is right now. It has no memory. It knows nothing about what's going on other than what it is perceiving right now. And you would think of that as the kind of thing that would be able to play checkers or chess or tic-tac-toe with you. It just depends on the world as it is now. Doesn't make any difference how it got that way. The next kind of thing is called a model-based reflect agent. It again has to perceive what's going on out in the environment, and it takes note of it. It has some sense of history of what's been going on out there, and then it would try to figure out what to do. Here are some rules that determine the action that it should do now. A way that this would be different would be if you had this thing with the instruction of pick up a rock, and that's all it would know. It would pick up a rock. This idea of a model-based thing, because it's keeping some kind of record of its history, would have the sense of, oh, I've already picked up a rock like that. I won't pick this one up because it's the same as one I already have. So it would not pick up that rock. It would continue on and pick up a different rock. Next, things are slowly getting smarter. The next thing is a goal-based agent. Now this thing again perceives the environment, knows where it is. It knows in a sense how the world will act. It can also figure out what will happen if I do what I think. I give it some idea of something I'd like it to do, and it can then figure out, well, what will the world be like if I do that? Then the idea of goals take over. The goals say, well, you have a goal, and this goal feeds in and finds out, well, does that action actually go ahead and help me meet the goal? And if it does, I would go ahead and follow that particular action. So now you've given the thing a goal, and the thing will, and the agent will take an action in such a way that it will move towards the goal. The next thing is, well, you have a utility-based action, and that's another level of refinement, because if you have something that simply wants to have that has a goal, it may not be the best way to go and get what you want. Let's take an example of you hailed a taxi, and the taxi is willing to give you a ride back to where you want to go, but they're going to charge you $1,200. And your utilization would say, well, you know, that is not the best choice. It does satisfy getting me to my goal, but it doesn't really do it in a way that makes me very happy. So the idea of building in a utility-based agent tries to figure out, is the action that you're going to take something that I'm going to be happy with? Or am I in agreement with that decision as to the action you want to take? So before taking that particular action, it has to pass the utility goal. But notice the thing is not making any decisions yet or learning. And here is the final agent. Now, a learning agent is a type of agent that learns from its past experiences and has learning capabilities. And it starts to act with basic knowledge. That is, you have to teach the darn thing enough so that it can sort of get out there, perceive a world, make some sense of it, just as you would with any child. There is a certain amount of learning that it has to undergo before it can really start to function and do additional learning. So once it's reached that level, so that, for example, if you're doing something like ChatGPT, you taught it how to learn, how to read, how to understand human speech, and you give it the ability to just read anything. And in the case of ChatGPT, I don't know if you are aware of it, the only training it gets is in the stuff that it reads, a word is blanked out. And in the this is in the advanced training of ChatGPT, it is to try to fill in what that word should be. So the whole game in ChatGPT is, what's the next word? So if you would say Eiffel, it would hopefully, as a correct thing, come up with tower. And then if it wasn't done yet, it might add Eiffel Tower in. And then the next word, of course, would be Paris. And that's how ChatGPT learns. And it also learns to say, oh, I've reached the end of this conversation. That, again, is a thing that it just simply learns by just reading and reading and reading, and it specifies the end, and somewhere in its training it says, no, you dummy, that's not the end. We have to correct your perception. And so what happens is there is that standard, that performance standard. Did you get the word right? There's a critic then that you either got it right. If you didn't get it right, a correction is made. That feeds something into your learning. So we change the weight a little bit of somehow your understanding of speech and whatever we guess to be the thing to help you learn better. That then affects how you perform, and you then take a new action. And we see if you're getting better at learning how to fill in those blanks. And that is the learning process that something like ChatGPT goes, and it actually then learns from you when you're using it, and you ask it for something and say, no, you didn't get that right. It tries to incorporate that into its learning. So, and then there's this thing called a problem generator, which suggests actions that the thing might take that would help it to learn more. I'm not exactly sure that I understand that all that well. So those are the agents, and this learning agent is sort of the stage that ChatGPT is currently at right now. It's what we would call at the forefront of AI. It's a computer system, computerized system of artificial intelligence. And I'll be saying more in later lectures or later discussions about how it actually works to imitate the human mind. So, and as I say, this is the stage where AI systems such as ChatGPT currently function. Now, into what is to my mind a more unknown context. There is a lot of talk out there about making multi-age systems, and as you might imagine, it's a system composed of multiple interacting agents designed to work together to achieve a common goal. These agents may be autonomous or semi-autonomous, capable of perceiving their environment, making decisions, and taking actions to pursue a common objective. They can be used in a variety of applications: transportation systems, robotics, and social networks. They can help improve efficiency, reduce costs, increase flexibility, so on and so forth. In a homogeneous mass system, all the agents have the same capability, goals, and behaviors. In a heterogeneous one, they have different capabilities, goals, and behaviors. I'm starting to find that getting a little scary. I don't mind building single units that are extremely smart and capable of reflecting or exceeding even human intelligence, but to start making communities of them, I could see some potential problems there. And going even a little further in that journey, there are people who want to construct it in such a way that the system is hierarchical. And so there would be a hierarchy of more or less capable agents out there. And they could oversee and have it under their control lower level agents. The higher level agents provide goals and constraints, while the lower level agents carry out specific tasks. The structure allows for efficient and organized decision making in complex environments. That's certainly true, but I could also see it as not necessarily being friendly all the time, or being able to see just how do you control something that's getting that complex? How are you able to control that with intelligence and foresight that ends up having it achieve the goals that you set out for it? As it ends, overall hierarchical our agents are a powerful tool in artificial intelligence that can help solve complex problems and improve efficiency in a variety of applications. That's certainly true, but in the place of solve, you could readily have substituted create. So I just want to give you now two very enthusiastic supporters of AI that concern me somewhat. This one I got from Lowell Seaver. It's due to Bill Gates. And to do any task on a computer now, you have to tell your device which app to use. You can use Microsoft Word and Google Doc to draft a business proposal, but they can't help you send an email, share a selfie, analyze data, schedule a party, or buy a movie ticket for you. Even the best sites have incomplete understandings of your work, personal life, interests, and relationships, and a limited ability to use this information to do things for you. That's the kind of thing only possible today with another human being, like a close friend or personal assistant. In the next 5 years, this will change completely. You won't have to use different apps for different tasks. You will simply tell your device in everyday language what you want to do. And depending on how much information you choose to share with it, the software will be able to respond personally because it will have such a rich understanding of your life. In the near future, anyone who's online will be able to have a personal assistant powered by artificial intelligence that's far beyond today's technology. Do you want that? No. No.
Yes. What's the date of that statement?
It's very recent. It would be within the last week or two.
Last week.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So it's a very recent statement. I mean, good Lord. And this is a man with it seems to me, a deep understanding, and I typically thought of him as a sensible, reasonable person. But I don't want this thing. It's just, it knows too much about me. And I think you could readily say it knows more about yourself than you do. And this is another wondrous device that's coming out. It's called Humane, the AP pin. So this is a pin that you put on your shirt, and it brings, in a sense, all of this right present to your person. It has a laser writer that will write messages on the palm of your hand rather than on your computer screen. So it's just a new, fully automated way of having AI really just take you over. If you think you're being run by your brain, well, that used to be true. To me, I really find it a bit scary that there are some of the finest minds in our society going and thinking about these things. I recognize there is a thing called progress, but my God, it can come on you so quickly as to overwhelm you, and maybe you're not ready for it all. If you remember Bill Gates's interaction with one of his own Microsoft products called Clippy, he was typing a letter, and Clippy jumped up on the screen and says, "Hello, I'm Clippy. Can I help you?" And Bill Gates' reaction was, "Clippy must die." and so I think he showed his good sense in that regard, and I trust that we'll see in the future that we can be getting a more measured way of how we can make use of this marvelous capability that we are developing. Thank you. Noah, I don't know if anything about microphones.
I'll try to speak loudly.
Good.
Well, there aren't any.
There might be.
We can hear you, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just go ahead.
So, over the weekend, the CEO of ChatGPT was sacked. He has now gone to work for Bill Gates.
Yes. Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to point out, back to your, so, go ahead.
I was just going to say, do you have any insight into that?
Only what showed up on my newsfeed this morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
They sacked him, then they tried to rehire him, and Bill Gates says, no, I've got you, more or less. On slide number 3, when you did the old-fashioned way of building things, there's a step that is important in industrial production that's not in there. That's a step between the engineering design and production in the shop. And that's a step of planning. If you look at that
This one?
Yeah, that one right there. If you look off to our right, there's engineering drawings, I can't read it, and production. And there's a step between those, it's called planning. And that planning process basically takes the engineering design into every step that takes place in the production process. Where you drill a hole, what kind of a bolt you put in. I worked as a planner for Boeing. And it's an incredibly detailed process that really adds time to those steps. Because guys in the shop can't look at a drawing and say, here's exactly what I have to do. That's one of the advantages of the CAM, is that you don't have to have that step, but it was really important in the 60s in production.
Yeah, so I was never involved in production. I was only involved in making a one of the particular thing, so there was no planning involved, just go ahead and execute.
Well, actually that's interesting, because prior to production there was pre-production planning. So every piece of an airplane went through a planning stage before it went into production. And that's what I did. I was a pre-production planner. And so there was a prototype made of every part of an airplane or a car or whatever that made sure that what you were doing worked.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
but it's not like being a one-of-a-kind business.
Yes.
So, Gerry, when that process became on CAD/CAM, do you know how many draftsmen lost their jobs? That's one of the issues.
Well, I would say in every draftsman that I knew lost their job. So I don't know how much that was, across industry, but certainly there were no longer draftsmen employed as draftsmen. They might have been able to shift to other jobs.
Well, that sort of belies your first statement about this is really democratization.
Pardon me?
Your first opening was that this is really democratization. I know if you're putting a whole bunch of people out of work, and it's only the big capital that really benefits from this, this is not democracy.
I don't want to get there yet. We'll handle things like that later.
Another comment, could you elaborate a little bit on the ChatGPT training? You said it interprets the words. Where do the words come from?
Oh, well, you would just give it access to something like the web. And it now has a whole lot of documents, and the teacher, who is also presumably some kind of computer, just simply blocks out a word. And ChatGPT has to guess what that word is, and it has a whole set of probabilities from what it's learned previously, and it either gets that word right and leaves the system, or maybe even reinforces the system that it has for guessing what that word is in place, and if it doesn't get it right, a change is made. Let's see if I can remember all those numbers, but ChatGPT has something the order of several 100 billion parameters. And the parameters are the weights of how words end up being produced, fed into a neural network. And I think it's a topic that's best discussed when we have the time to bring it up. So, and that'll happen, I think, in the 4th lecture.
Gerry?
Yeah.
I was reading something about cryptocurrency farms.
I'm sorry?
Cryptocurrency farms, cryptocurrency mining and how much electricity it took.
Yeah.
It was pulling on the whole
Yes.
climate change thing. What about the electricity with this development?
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding the question.
Okay. They take so much mining of crypto.
Yes, you bet. Crypto mining was...
Do things within the AI use some, like a...
No. There's no AI involved in that. That is simply a desire to build the fastest computer you can, because all you're trying to do is generate a random number, and your ability to get that random number faster than anyone else just has to do with your ability to be able to compute faster than anybody else. And so that was a driver.
Gerry?
Yeah.
It seems to me that from the little I know of production, is that decision-making by computers has been going on since the 70s or 80s.
Yes.
That it's, for example, the taxi one, it made a decision not to go to $1,200. There are computers that design lenses, and they decide whether the lens that they're designing is getting better, or they're making a decision whether the lens is getting better or poorer as they design it, and whether it's whether the image is getting fuzzier or less fuzzy or sharper. So it seemed we just didn't see those decisions that were being made.
But I'm not sure that a decision. Where was you seeing that a decision was being made?
Well, it would say, well, let's put a little more lead in this piece of glass. And did the image improve? No, it got poorer. Let's put less lead in.
But I think it was that was in the program. That is, you went through that procedure, and it was nothing that the computer did. You just forced it through that procedure, and it recognized that if I took the difference between reading I and I+1, and it was sufficiently small, I terminated.
But
So
still,
I'm just
They
claiming.
automated the decision-making process.
yeah,
So
it's-
it automated it out. There was no decision-making made by the machine.
no, there is still a decision. Yes or no? More lead, no lead.
Yeah.
It's a decision.
No, the decision was programmed into it was in the program.
Yes.
That's the point.
Yeah, that's what I'm
No, I would not say that is not the machine making a decision.
Okay.
It's the programmer. It's the programmer.
That's like saying the calculator decided that 2 + 2 was 4.
just wanted to bring up the word processing that's, I mean, we're all doing word processing on a computer.
You bet.
And, it's always suggesting the next word for you. And when we decide that we don't want that and we type in something else, I think there's a feedback that's going back to the company that's making that and saying, well, in this case, you guessed wrong. We're talking about feedback that's going into the, when you use a word processor, you have feedback when you change the word that it suggests. And I think then the Microsoft is getting your response is negative, and that feedback is going back into the program. Is that correct?
I really don't know that, but...
Yes, the answer is yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Sorry, Jerry.
I'm not a word processor. Yeah.
A comment. I can speak loudly too. A small concern about the generation that we're in and the 2 or 3 generations that are below and beyond us, our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. We may be concerned about what's going on now, but I find all those, at least 2 of those 3 generations, very excited by the ideas of AI, just as they were excited to make sure that we had Alexa to play with. Just a concern.
Yeah, no, I certainly... what are we to do with that comment? Nothing, just
nothing.
Just a comment, yeah.
Yeah, just a comment.
A while back, I needed a liability release. And my son used, I guess it was ChatGPT. 5 minutes later, he sent me a very detailed one that was excellent. Now, somewhere the training had already taken place. And so there must be a huge reservoir of trained algorithms or something that could be pulled upon when somebody asks a question.
I don't know what to say. I mean, it does generate in the majority of cases very valuable information that probably sounds right, sounds good. It has been known to just come up with some really wrong answers, and it, for example, has no real worry about what truth is.
But isn't what Al's talking about our standardized forms that are available? You can get deeds, you can get PSOTs. All those, they're not generated by AI. They are in fact existing forms that are pulled up by a computer.
Yeah, somewhere it picks them up.
It's not being generated specifically.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm lost.
Well, what I'm suggesting is that there's a huge volume of existing information that can be drawn upon. And whether it's existing forums or something it makes up, maybe is beside the point.
I don't know. I don't think ChatGPT takes any document as that document and incorporates it into itself. It was part of a training that led it to make a word, a particular response to a set of words, but it didn't learn any particular document in a way that
Well, it comes out of somewhere.
Huh?
It came out of somewhere when he sent me a liability release 5 minutes later.
You get a deed the same way, wills, I mean, all those.
Okay, oh, I see. But you didn't need ChatGPT to do that, did you? Huh?
That's where he got it.
Oh, okay. But that simply meant there was another way that you could access that if you knew what you were doing. And if you didn't know what you were doing, you could ask ChatGPT to do it for you. But if it's just getting another document, that's an entirely different sort of thing. You're just using it as a more intelligent search engine on your computer than just going to Google or something like that.
When you get into preferences, when the machine gets into preferences and has to decide what to follow, some of the preferences are founded in logic, in science, and some of them are founded in emotion. Now, tens of millions of years of evolution or more have produced a capability of making those decisions either logically or emotionally. How will they reach a point where they're limited by history in deciding what the preferences have been in the past and therefore what they could or should be in the future? But those preferences are conflicting in a human race that where individual survival is different than collective survival. So how is it going to make those decisions? On what basis is it going to make those decisions? That's the point at which I'm having problems.
Okay, well, one thing it would do is it would depend on the question you ask them. Is what is best for me? What is best for my country?
And how will it determine that?
Well, you ask the question, it hasn't learned something, it just goes back and tries to find. Well,
but the answers are conflicting.
Of course, but that's okay.
But how does it resolve those conflicts?
It doesn't resolve them. It answers the question. Which one did you ask? What's best for me? It answers that question. What's best for my country? It answers that question.
But what's best for my country is different if you're a MAGA person or you're a...
Right.
Well, it would just simply be able to answer the question based on what it knew. I mean, it's to me, from that point of view, relatively straightforward. It's nowhere near as complex as you would seem to be making it.
So,
I think you're much more in the world of logic than I am.
so, Gerry, what if you said, what is best for me, Trump or Biden?
Sure, you could, of course.
If you're me and you're one kind of person, you don't think the answer would be Trump. If you're another kind of person, you would think the answer would be Biden. So where is he getting that information about what kind of person you are?
It knows who you are. I mean, if it didn't, it would have the intelligence to say, "Who are you?"
Well, you always have the option of rejecting what the answer came up.
Pardon me?
You have the option of saying, I don't like the answer, let's try again.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. That's the nature of the chat. I mean, I think all ChatGPT is able to do is answer what you asked it and how it understood what you asked it. Okay.